Fall is in the air. Snippy out there. It's even freezing at night. Here we go, my friends. We're going into winter once again. And of course, we're going into an election, right? Here in Saskatchewan. And I'm not sure how they intend to have us vote when we are under a state of emergency and our rights and freedoms have been suspended. This is when you have to know that it's not about a virus. And of course, that started way back at the beginning with me, because I've been studying all of this intently since the get-go, every single day, digging in as the cases in the world transpired and learning how this virus was operating. Because when our state of emergency was called in Saskatchewan on March 18th, we had 2 confirmed cases. Yes, indeed. Now, somehow that morning, Johns Hopkins and Health Canada somehow received the word that we had 16 confirmed cases. But in fact, we had 2 and 14 probable. There seems to be some errors in data translation. Now, of course, our public health officer, the chief honcho, he got his education at Johns Hopkins. Isn't that interesting? My point is that the figures weren't even right the day we went into a state of emergency. And my point again is that it didn't matter. No, it didn't, because it wasn't because of the threat of a virus. It was a matter of a course and a general shutdown across the board. It was planned. And as it developed, we could see that CV is nothing more than a seasonal flu, and in fact, less virulent than what we're used to, according to the government of Saskatchewan's own statistics on both. Our deaths here, they're not from CV itself. They are related, meaning they had comorbidities. And we're being duped. As you can see, these masking policies within schools were set on go. And it doesn't matter what you seem to say to your schools because they're not listening. Why? They're beholden. Because this is Agenda 2030. And all of these structural changes to our democracy and our world and our government, institutions, corporations, is all so that we in the entire world enjoy a common culture. And the worst part is they built it around a virus. That is going to be the one thing that melds us together, or so they think. And I'm saying bull. This is a coup. And I called that a long time ago too. I did. We have a de facto government in operation, and that's the bottom line. And it's through you know who. On January 30th, 2020, the rules were changed forever as to how things like pandemics were handled. In the past, nations protected their national interest. But this time it was different. And this was the play by the globalists. Because it was decided when it was called, when WHO called a global emergency, that that global body would manage the crisis. And therefore, their decisions would supersede those of nations. That's why Trudeau went in the House. Get it? That's how come Tam's on the front line every day. Now here in Saskatchewan, they hide out our guy, Shabab. Yes, they do. It's interesting because the women public health officers, I've noticed, they've got right out there front and center. But the men, standing behind, not saying much, only coming out for their benevolent addresses. Like telling us how easy it is to put on a mask and to just comply. Absolutely not. To belittle the situation is quite insulting. But the fact that he's actually acknowledging there's an opposition is slightly encouraging. But I know it's not going to make a difference in the world because this is all about Agenda 2030 goals and reaching them. It could have never happened in our democracy. There is all these very ambitious targets to meet, like 99% vaccination. And we're not even close here, which is why they have us in states of emergency. I'm not sure how we're voting under a state of emergency, and that's the first order of business. But secondly, the way in which we went under a state of emergency is deeply in question, my friends. It is. We're Canadian. This sort of stuff doesn't happen here. But this is the same thing that's going down around the world. And it doesn't matter the circumstances. The government talks about misinformation, yet they continue to misinform. And again, I keep asking the question, who do you know with CV? Now, an interesting little thing I found out through those comments in No Masks. That was a brilliant idea, I have to say myself. I'm seeing that people are going for testing, yet they're not isolating. And that is on the SHA website that you have to do that. It's 14 days, regardless of the test result. I found people bragging on No Masks about the fact that they didn't bother. And then I sort of understood that a few people weren't even told. To me, if we want to flatten the curve, my friends, we have to make sure everybody knows that they are going to be isolated for 2 weeks if they test. It's like they're not enforcing it, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. But I would love to hear from you if you have any clues for me. This is a sham. And our entire world has been fashioned around a virus that is, in fact, nothing more than the flu. Which brings us back to the flu and where that surveillance is. I'm looking for it on their website. I can't find it. And I'm thinking it might be just what I predicted. The fact that the seasonal flu does not return as a thing and everything is turned into COVID. Interesting times. Now, of course, we're making some really great headway and it's exciting. I did want to mention another little sabotage job that came in last night. It never ends, I swear to God. The powers that be must think us, primarily women, that's who's on the protest line, are a big threat. And they're doing their damnedest to align us with scary entities like right-wing militias and Antifa. Now, of course, we had the guy the other night with the Antifa association that he was trying to draw in a post with us. And then last night, I had a member and he was laying in wait waiting for his opportunity, my friends. And he got it for about 3 minutes, and I snagged it. I had been talking on the feed with several people about my desire to connect with the younger males, because I'm noticing that they're out there covering their faces. And I think it's very weird and odd that they would be so afraid of a virus. So as I got the conversation going, this man piped in, and then all of a sudden a video emerged for me to approve. And right away, I had never seen his face because, number one, he's in this profile, it's kind of blurred out. I can't see it. So he gets on there, and I realize it's right from him. And he's got quite the set of tattoos under his t-shirt. I was suspect right away. And of course, us Canadians are always told, don't be so judgmental. And I'm not a judgmental person, but I've sort of seen that structure of tattooing in El Salvador with gangs. So I went to the middle just to make sure that the message was good. And the guy did say fuck a few times, and maybe a little bit too much, but he wasn't an angry guy, and he was making some very good points. And I actually commended him initially because he did make some good points, and it was a great way to get and connect with the youth. I approved it, and I was walking away, and I just turned around and said, no, something's wrong. And I went back to it, sat down, and within the first 3 minutes, which I pretty much skipped over, and it wasn't, sorry, not the 3 minutes, it was like 10 seconds, but I'd skipped over that part. I went back, and he's talking, and it's within the first 10 seconds. And he does this sort of thing. Now, the thing is, he's bald. And what I noticed was a tattoo. So what happened was I was actually letting it run and screenshotting, trying to catch the moment because it was so brief. And there it was, 3%. Now, I'd never heard of 3%. I don't know what 3% is until I decided to look it up. And I realized it's a right-wing militia. Why would he want to do that? A bunch of women. We're about 70% women online, and on the protest line, 90%. Unless we were a threat. And we're not a threat to 3%, and we know that. So that's why I'm calling it a setup. From the ones that are threatened. Because I don't believe it's the 3% that's threatened. I believe it's the NWO and this new regime. I've just started talking about sovereignty, and it's something we have to look at. It's not that I want to go that way. I love my country. But our Canada has signed on to this UN plan that in order for it to actually come to fruition, they're going to have to enact medical martial law. That's why we are under these states of emergency. My friends, this is an unprecedented time. Our democracy has been hijacked. And we can scream and yell and throw all sorts of letters every which way. But we need to restore our rights and freedoms first before anything happens. They don't want to give those to us back for the election, and we need them. The only way to get out of this mess is to separate from the United Nations. These are Canada's commitments that are shifting us into a place where you won't have the right to dictate over your own body, in your treatment, in your health. Everything is being circumvented by public health. In Saskatchewan, we have a unique opportunity. We really do. Because of our small population, because of those anomaly in numbers on the day of that state of emergency, and the fact that we can clearly call that it is not an emergency. We need to bind together. We need to stop letting other factions take us out. Because, again, what they're intended to do as well is to make sure that the other mass groups out there don't want to align with us. I know this game. But guess what? I'm willing to take the hits for the far right. I am. I'm already hated. So it's okay. I'm going to run that hard right line in order that those people that believe in choice like me land on choice. So welcome to the games, my friends. We're just getting started.